Hello everyone, welcome to another live Q&A session. And today we will be talking about the most important quarter of the year, Q4. So this is the time when the Amazon sellers are getting the most sales and they make hopefully the most profit in their business. And my guest today is Danny McMillan. Hello, Danny.
Hiya, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So before we start, everyone, you can type in the chat just to double check if you can hear and see us well. And meanwhile, Danny, can you introduce yourself? What are you doing and how do you help Amazon sellers?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm an Amazon seller selling the UK and the US. I've got various different partners, so we operate across multiple accounts in our partnership. Started on Amazon back in 2015, I think it was. And I've got a background in commerce, so originally from the music industry and went online in 2008. So I was involved in commerce through ticketing and startup companies and stuff like that. And as of today, obviously studying on Amazon, we also got the Databricks agency, which is for managing large accounts in terms of PPC. So it's PPC automation, but it's managed. We got our own algorithms and stuff. And I also run Seller Sessions, which is a podcast that we publish 3 times a week for advanced Amazon sellers.
And I think most audience probably know you from Seller Sessions. Actually, as someone, could you type 1 if you know Danny and 0 if you see this person for the first time, or you don't really know, having heard maybe about Seller Sessions or haven't listened to his podcast, but I really encourage you to listen. Many advanced sellers I know are listening to it. And this evening, we are both now sitting with Dan in Europe, so it's evening for us. We will be talking about Q4. So Danny will be taking your questions. So be brave and just type your questions related to Q4, ideally, and he will be answering to you. And before we start, Danny, could you introduce us or remind to the sellers the most important dates for Q4 season?
Okay, so leading up to Q4, there's a number of series of dates. One of the most important ones is to get your inventory in on time. I don't know the exact date yet, but look in your Seller Central account for alerts and stuff. But we're looking probably around mid towards the end of October to make sure that you've got your inventory in. The next day after that is Thanksgiving, which is 22nd of November. And then we have Black Friday, which is the 23rd of November, it's the day before my birthday. And then you've got Cyber Monday on the 26th of November. And then you've got what I call Christmas last post. So 21st of December, thereabouts, you'll start to see things drop off. And of course, most things die on its arse come the 25th and 24th and 25th before it starts to, you see it drop off, but in some cases pick up. But in most cases, that's pretty much your Q4 powerhouse period.
And do you remember, or maybe Amazon haven't announced the date when you have to ship your goods, your products?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact final date, but that's why we're saying mid towards the end of October. It doesn't happen to be the same date every year for every country, so it could be different for the UK to the US. But in reality, if you've not got your stock ordered now and you're bringing over on shipment, you're going to leave yourself a very tight timeline, as we're in the beginning of September already. So it's very tight now. So hopefully anyone who is sending stock in, if you've got small items, maybe you're sending in by air or you're making your products domestically, so your timeline is a lot shorter. But if you're doing sea shipments, you're going to be on the bone, even if you're ordering tomorrow.
All right. And I saw a couple of people typed 0, so it means they're hearing about you probably for the first time or haven't listened to your Seller Sessions.
Yeah.
What kind of content do you provide through this podcast?
So through the podcast, it's mainly of a technical nature. So it's like ranking, we cover PPC, we cover AMS, we'll cover like advanced strategies, we'll talk about selling your businesses. We also talk about the state of affairs on Amazon. Like when we've seen a big the takeover with the Chinese and what they're doing and the mindset of the Chinese and how they differ to the European and the US or the Western culture. So we kind of work on different topics, like even down to suspensions, but we don't present it in such a way where like the skies are falling. It's more about, I see seller sessions as a community radio, if you like, where we get lots of people within the FBA culture that come on and share information. So we don't charge for it or anything like that, but it's about having those common conversations that we all have. We've done episodes on when is a guru and should you bother doing courses. So we try and keep it topical rather than get guests on to the podcast and maybe do their life story, talk about what they like, the categories they're in on Amazon. There's lots of great podcasts that do that, and there's also lots of great podcasts that focus on entry level people coming onto Amazon. But there's not so much information out there, that free information that's published 3 times a week for advanced sellers. So that's our core audience.
Perfect. So let's take the questions from the audience. And I see Faith Baker, she was asking, we are on Amazon Advantage and also on Vendor Central. We want to bundle some books and they won't let us to do that on Advantage, but they say we can do it on Vendor Central. Do you have any tips on how to bundle?
Honestly, I don't have the answer to that question. I really don't know. It's a good question. It's caught me out. So the first question from the audience is one I don't know. So I apologize for that.
But also, yeah, books is not what Danny usually deals. He does probably more of a private label stuff. And Greenwitz EU is asking, can a reseller appear twice as an FBA seller?
I'm not sure what that question means. Does that mean, can he run and operate 2 accounts? Or is he talking about the same product, but different variations appearing twice?
Maybe
in the search
about arbitrage. And yeah, please, Greenwitz, if you can.
If you can elaborate on that, and maybe I'll be able to answer that a little bit better if I know the answer.
MK is saying, I have a new product that looks like it may be released in November, December. Do you suggest waiting to release it due to the hectic Q4 or wait until January?
The problem you got is that you've got to create visibility, and what happens, generally speaking, depends on what kind of product, especially if it's a gift product. You see an uplift in sales in Q4, but there goes the budgets as well. So people are spending more money, and they see that as one of the most important periods of the year, because most people can 2x, 3x, 4, and sometimes 6x depending on the product. And so there goes the increase in sales. So you need to then try and fight that increase in visibility, or trying to be smart as possible with it. But ideally, if you're going to rank a product, you want to rank it before Q4 kicks in, because it becomes much more expensive as well.
Great, thank you. And Matt wants to know, Danny, what PPC strategy and structure would you recommend for a bootstrapped first product launch?
Again, this is going to come down to your product. A lot of people talk about ACOS, and that's ACOS in isolation is a poor metric to work with. And so everyone chases a low ACOS. But the problem is that you can't design products to fit your ACOS and fit your needs. It either will or it won't. And often you find that once you've launched, the main keywords that you want, especially in a competitive category, the ACOS are going to be a lot harder to achieve. So if I was to turn that question around, it would be, what kind of products are you selling? If they're super niche products and maybe they're a bit more expensive in terms of the unit price, maybe they're 30, 40, 50 pounds or dollars. In some cases, your cost per clicks are lower because there's less competition taking place there, as opposed to something that's selling for $10.99, $11.99, and it's a ubiquitous product, like a Me Too product that comes in from China, that a lot of people are selling because it's cheap to manufacture.
Right. So Faith wants to know about ranking. How do we get top ranking beyond paying for advertising? How does Amazon rank products? And she says, an issue is we sell calendars and same title, but new product each year, and they seem to take time to rank higher.
Yeah, what you're saying, are they calendars whereby they're seasonal? Because I think Kevin King, you've had on, he's in the calendar business as well, and I think he gets to that last quarter where he does all the sales, and then you can't get rid of them in January. It's the same with Halloween. So you have to have a plan in place in terms of ranking, and you want to catch the ride as it goes up, because you may find that you do your keyword research, but there isn't any there isn't any search volume in that shorter period. So you need to look off that historical data. Now, some people out there are buying up data from various different places to understand what's happening historically if they haven't sold that product before. So ideally, you're going to try and rank beforehand. And once you start building some sales velocity and getting some sales, then when it does take off and you have got page one visibility on those main keywords, you can ride the storm there because you're already in that visible position. You're just waiting for that trend to change, for it to kick in.
Paul is asking for a little bit clarification about this cutoff date Amazon announces. So he says, will Amazon prevent you from sending inventory after mid-October, or it will only be slower processing times? What exactly is this cutoff date in the mid-October?
So it will vary, right? So there's a cutoff date. I think it was last year where they done anyone who signed up for Amazon FBA on a new account, they couldn't participate in Q4, if I remember rightly. So if you've been, you've done the rodeo a couple of times, I think the biggest concern is that you will get that backlog. So you try and send stuff in, but everyone's of the same thinking and they're sending their stock in. And then that creates a backlog at Amazon. It always does. And so you might get stuff that goes in late and it might sit there until after Christmas when you've missed your main objective of getting it in there in time to take advantage of Q4 once it all kind of starts from Black Friday onwards, So the answer to your question is I can't guarantee whether your stock won't get in this side of Christmas if you're after that date, but obviously they're still ingesting and bringing stock in. So it would be safe to say is that if you're going to get your stock, get it in early and don't miss that deadline, whatever they provide. And I would give yourself a buffer of at least a week before as well.
Can it mean that, let's say, in the end of October, when you go to Seller Central, you cannot even generate a shipment to ship to Amazon?
Do you know what? I don't know because I've not tried that. I'm going to need to look into this because this year, what we've done, because of the long-term storage fees and just the regular storage fees, we've now switched our model. So we use the 3PL and we send in on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So that is a good question because we've already ordered our stock with what we're doing. A lot of the stuff is in the 3PL. We're also operating a lot more in the UK where we manufacture a certain brand in the UK as well. So we don't have that overseas thing. But I need to work out of our timings as well, which I'd like to come back and address that for you. Because we're going to get to that stage where instead of being able to send them in every couple of weeks, are we going to have that problem where we do have to send it all in and then pull it after Christmas if it doesn't sell through? So there's always going to be that risk.
Let's see. So Cyber Alchemy wants to know, what is the best current strategy for quickly ranking for relevant keywords during the first few weeks after launch?
Okay, so there is a lot of speculation at the moment that the storefront URL is become less effective. There's a lot of people testing at the moment because I think what's happened is people have noticed where they've been doing the giveaway thing. You're sending traffic from Facebook, 90% discount, and then you're running a storefront URL like rotating a handful of keywords. That's become less and less effective over time. More so in the US than say in the UK or the EU. But even more so in the last couple of weeks, it's come to light that that where Amazon have adjusted their algorithm, there's a problem there with ranking where it's not only taking longer, but some people are finding it very difficult to rank. So the answer, what is the quickest way to rank at the moment, outside of doing crazy black hat tactics, we're still trying to work on that at the moment, in the sense that the URL with the storefront, which was always the quickest way of doing it, and even doing one-day launches. So what I would do is, instead of trying to jump in and do the one-day launch straight off the bat, you're going to need to make sure that you can rank for these keywords. And if this is your first rodeo and you haven't done it before, I wouldn't go and spend a fortune on doing that at the moment unless you've got some proven track record. So my suggestion as it stands is to speak to some of the launch companies like Viral Launch, like Sixleaf, and see where they are with their data at the moment. because I think it's going to be super important to make sure you don't do any launches until this has been ironed out.
And you mentioned one-day launches. It's something new in the industry, which appeared a few months ago. Can you explain what is the difference between?
So the standard is that you're looking at the 30 days. You're trying to work out how many units you want to get away on that particular keyword to go to page 1, right? There's a lot of moving parts involved here. So you have to make sure you're distributing enough coupons. If you're running Facebook ads, the ads need to be desirable enough so that you get enough uptake on your daily way of giving away the coupons. So people try and break it into all these different levels of science, but ultimately it's about the sales velocity, selling on that keyword. So the idea is that if you need to give away 300 units over a 7-day period, for instance, that's what you do. You subdivide those down by the 7 days. But what happens is people do that and they don't always give away enough units over that period of time, and it can go up and down. So what people have experimented with as well is a 1-day launch. But again, you need to make sure you're going to get enough impressions, clicks, and conversions to pick up the coupon codes. So you may decide you want to take them 300 units and try and give them away all on 1 day. And then what happens is you get that kind of boost effect. It's like a halo effect. So a couple of days later, it's got that whoosher effect of selling those units through, and then you would rank. But there is the other side of that. You do need to make sure you've got some good capital in the background, because what I see with people when they're ranking products, they save just enough to rank the product, but it isn't always a linear path. So what happens is they might get it to page 1 and it starts to drop. So you do what I call top-up campaigns. So you want to be looking at your organic sales, and you would go, well, I might need to give away a few more coupons today to start matching those sales, because you've got to think about if units are sold, you've got to look at the average order size, and you've got to look at the conversion history as well on that. And it has to have a conversion history to work from. That's why we talk about the 7 days. But them 7 days are turned into 10, they're turned into 14. So it's more and more, it's got to the stage of whereas it used to be, oh yeah, we just rank those products on those keywords and you give away that amount of units and it would just happen. There are more things in play here. So I'm finding that you just have to do a lot of top-up stuff and experiment with amounts of coupon codes or coupon codes at different value sets to give away in order to keep yourself placed. And another thing to take in consideration as well, just because you've ranked that product to get to where you want to get it to, it doesn't mean it's going to stay there. And so I hear a lot of people saying that the ranking doesn't work and it just dropped back down. It dropped back down because the real Amazon buyers didn't look at that page and go, yes, I want to buy that product. There's something about that product that they didn't want. It may have been your price. It may be your images are not right. It may be that the product is less desirable to the other products on that page.
All right. And MK, he says, well, he basically wanted to clarify, you mentioned storefront URLs. Is it the same 2-step URLs?
Well, there's loads of different names for different URLs, but if we want to break it down as the storefront URL, which I think people do call it a 2-step URL as well, it's when you go to your storefront and you search your keywords in your storefront and your products appear, and then from there you grab the URL, and in that URL is got the keyword that you want to use. And some people rotate those URLs as well. But as I said, there's this situation now with the storefront URLs. I'm not a developer, so you have to be aware of that here. But there are timestamps have been attributed to the URLs now, and the theory is that Amazon's now tracking with those timestamps. They're using that information to determine, that's a discount, that's a real sale, etc. And this is why it's become less effective in non-technical terms.
Mark Andre is asking, any frequent beginner overlooked mistakes for Q4?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for the Q4 for beginners, they never know, like no one knows, no one's got a crystal ball how much stock you're going to need. You might find that you do 4x, 10x or sell nothing. And it's like, it's almost like what's the word for it? Because there's so many different variables, it's almost like a punt sometimes. You're not going to be sure. So I would say that if you want to be on the cautious side and you are selling a product that's, you're not selling spanners and screwdrivers to businesses and they're more gifty, you're going to look at 3 times, 4 times your average daily sales as a minimum of those orders for at least 60 of the days of the 90 days out of Q4 to try and cover yourself. And that may not be enough, but it's better to go out of stock and do well and be profitable than it is to have too much stock and then you have to pull it out in the new year and you've got all the fees involved in that as well.
All right, thank you. And Pushumik has a problem with competitor. He says there is a competitor that has the same product under 40 listings, different ASINs and slightly different pictures. His bullets and product descriptions are literally stuffed with keywords. He's having keywords written one after the other without any sense. How does Amazon allow that? And what is this competitor strategy?
Sorry, say that again.
What is the strategy of this competitor who has the same product?
Well, it's obviously like we call it content jacking, where it's become a lot more apparent whether people are tying listings together or they're hijacking old listings that may not have, say, brand registry on, and they're trying to take those listings over for reviews. Now, Amazon's been dealing with a lot of this as well, but what you should do is try and get to the catalog team. If it's happening on your listing, go to Amazon. You've got that first line of defense, as I like to call it, and you want to try and get past them. A little trick that you can do is confuse them because they never want to let go. It's almost like, you know, when a guy and a girl go out dating, and then there's this other guy who comes along and he gets in the way all the time. He's like blocking, you know, anything from happening. That's what seller support is a bit like on that first wave of defense. So you should ask for the catalog team. And if they won't put you through, start confusing them and just saying, oh, I need to change this because it's related to the browse node. And they won't have a clue what they're talking about. So find some technical term to catch them out. And then you can say to them, sorry, from my understanding, this is an area of your expertise. Can you put me through to the catalog team?
Actually, interesting you mentioned catalog team. And of course, beyond seller central support, the regular support, there are a lot of teams. Can you tell a little bit some most important teams which might be useful during your serious Amazon business?
So I would say the most important teams that you want to be reaching out to where possible is the catalog team, because they're very technical. And that often relates to your listings and any problems that you had there, especially if someone's kind of jumped onto your listing and they've changed images and things like that. There's a lot of black hat stuff going on there. There's also the captive team. So if you don't get anywhere, it's like a code word in theory, is that you can't get with your ticket dealt with and you're going round and round in circles, then ask for the captive team. And then it's basically a crew that are slightly higher up. And with that, what they can do is they can start to solve some of the problems. Another thing is if you're brand registered, then there's a different portal for that. So raise tickets through brand registry. As long as you can closely relate it as possible to the brand registry, to your listings and things like that, that is a good area to reach out to people in terms of getting good information back. And you also want to try and find, depending on the country that you're in and the time of day that you phone, it's really important to think like, you know, I know that if you're dealing with the US, you want to get someone domestically, you may not want the call centers in another country because they don't necessarily have the same level of knowledge. So try and call them if you're going to call them or reach out to them, try and raise these tickets or calls in the daytime hours. It's the same with the UK. You want someone in the UK to pick it up. Ireland's really good. Outside of the UK, what we've found is South Africa. They seem to be very knowledgeable as well. But not all of these call centers, if you like, or these third parties that work with Amazon under the Seller Central are necessarily knowledgeable. So pick your times in the day is quite important.
And getting contact to these higher teams, is it so easy? You just ask seller support and they grant this request? Well,
it's not easy. Sometimes you have to keep pushing back and pushing back. It's like with the seller support, and I think most people agree here, is like your eyes glaze over. As soon as you've got to speak to seller support, you know you're in for a world of pain. And it means that people don't understand and you're going round and it's round robin and they close the tickets because, you know, they'll communicate with you and then close the ticket, but they don't answer all your questions because it's easy for them to close it than answer your questions. Then you've got to reopen the ticket and then put in block letters, please do not close this as it's not been resolved. you know, and in some cases, from my understanding, is that you're not necessarily getting human contact. They're using technology to answer some of the basic questions.
Great. So we have another question. What do you think of Helium 10 Cerebro product rank formula as a launch tool to get high Amazon product ranking?
Yep, these are they're just various different ways. They've worked out different. If you're talking about the calculation for ranking, yeah, but there's a lot of moving parts in between. So you can follow that exactly to the T, but you may make a step wrong where you might put your price up, or your product doesn't have great imagery, you know, just things like that. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work, but it's a good formula to work from as your benchmark. So you have something to work from, because not everyone knows how many units to give away and how to go about it. So if you use that as a formula, and then you can elaborate on that formula and make adjustments.
Thank you. And Ellie wants to know, what's your experience and thoughts on the short title, which is less than 80 characters?
Well, there's two sides to it, isn't there? With the short title, you are more concise with what you write, a bit like Twitter, and you want to focus your keywords at the very front of that title. And it makes you work that much harder to write a better title, because you've only got a limitation to work with. And eventually Amazon's going to make that standard practice across all the categories. In some categories they are. You've noticed as well, in some of these categories, they're forcing to have your brand name at the start of the title. So if you're, you know, open university challenge something, you're going to eat up all your title as a brand name. So it's important now, if you are launching new brands, keep the brand name short, because if they insert that in front of the title, that like force it to be in there, you're still working with that small amount of characteristics in terms of 80 characters. But on the flip side of that, it helps you write a better title, because if a lot of sales are taking place on different platforms like mobile devices and stuff, you're going to get truncation on your title anyway. So you want to be able to influence as much as possible within the first 80 characters.
Great. Devin wants to know, what's the best way to get the most out of the best deals?
Could you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, Devin, please. I was thinking it's maybe lightning deals.
Lightning deals.
What's the best way to get the most out of the best deals?
Honestly, I barely run lightning deals nowadays. I just focus on PPC, and up till recently it was giveaways. So lightning deals I haven't done for a long time. Obviously, you want to work on your timings. You don't want to end up being the death of night. So think about when your lightning deals are run, what time periods are they working in, and what time slots have you got, and just try and optimize for that.
Right. Cyber is talking about giveaways. How much discount is optimal? If it's too steep do you lose verified buyer status on the review?
Yeah, well, a couple of things, two reasons. It depends on when you're doing the discounts. If you're using a discount, you're doing launches for a launch company, it's a different story. If you're doing launches and you're doing giveaways from Facebook, and your goal is to rank, bearing in mind we've got to put aside the storefront URL for a moment, so let's just put that aside. But in theory, if you go onto Facebook and offer someone 50% off, it's not a fantastic proposition, yeah, because you're going into a place where you're disrupting someone who's seeing an ad, yeah, so that's disrupted advertising. It's not like when you go onto Amazon and you type, because that's searcher's intent, yeah. So what happens, I've noticed quite a lot, is people try and skimp and scrape by not doing a 90% discount off, and then spending a lot on Facebook clicks and not getting the conversions, because people look at it and go, yeah, but I may not have a Prime account and it's going to cost me $8 plus shipping. It no longer becomes sexy. But if it's going to cost them $1 and they've got a Prime account, then they'll take that all day long. Yeah. So I would say, depending on your Facebook skill set, if you're really good at split testing and stuff, go for it. Maybe do 50s, 60s and discounts. Maybe you're so good that you find a way of narrowing down that bandwidth in terms of your targeting to really make it pop. But generally, the skill level I've seen on most people using Facebook ads is quite early doors. So just stick to doing the 90% discounts. Then that way is, even if you don't always make a great deal with your copy, you've still got a compelling price on there. And so that gives you more chance to allow for your mistakes for not having the high level skill set.
Great. We have a lot of questions. That's great. And I see a lot of people joined us a bit later. So Danny, can you talk a little bit one more time about your seller sessions, what Amazon sellers can find there? Is it for beginners still suitable? And can you just tell one more?
It's not like we turn anyone away. So seller sessions is basically for advanced Amazon sellers. We will cover ranking. We have various different guests. So we publish 3 times a week and we work on topical stuff. So you'll get Sean Smith, Brian Johnson, Lee Wren, Hirsch Korn, Chad, Brian Burke, Kevin King. A lot of people are regulars on the show because it's like a community show. And I tend to bring on people that are more technical driven, who do a lot of testing, so that we can talk about, the one-day launches. We can talk updates in AMS. We can talk about new PPC strategies and discuss all those kind of things. But we also look at topical stuff. We talk about issues with sales tax, and we talked about like VAT fraud and stuff like that. So more topical stuff. So people that have got busy lives but have these questions in their head all the time, we try and answer those questions, and we keep the shows nice and short, 15-20 minutes long, rather than those, like these shows where you get the big long drawn out intros and in the middle you've got like 4 minutes of stuff that you really want to get to. So what we try and do is just slam straight in 15-20 minutes, focus around the topic, and then people go off and get on and run their business, basically, because we're all busy people. Yeah.
And very soon you, Danny, have been running and hosting sellersessions.com podcast for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Great. And I see we had a question about what's the best way to do best deals, and Devin said that he got an email to submit best deals, and he explains that in the email they say best deals allow your products to be featured on the Amazon deals page, and it has to be at least 15% off. Then you get a template to submit a deal and to be featured on the deals page. And I think initial question was, what's the best way to get more out of it the most?
I've not run a deal, so I'll be honest with you, but if I was to run the deal, the first thing I'll be looking is at the deals page, and I'll be looking at how many products are in my category, what kind of discounts are they giving, what are the imagery they've got there, because ultimately you're going to do a deals page for a reason. You've got to think about what are your benefits on it. It's not keyword driven. So are you looking some sort of halo effect, or are you trying to dump stock, for instance? Yeah. And then you got to determine like what are the benefits you're going to try and get out of it, and what kind of discount that you can offer. So if you're working off a 25% margin, you're not going to want to give a discount with 50% off, because you're going to lose money on it. So think about the benefits from it. But I would definitely think it's important if, and I don't run these, so I'm just assuming, but if it's in a timely fashion, you don't want to be having been sequenced to publish that at midnight. You want to look for a prime time and work around what you want to achieve with it and build that into your strategy.
Great, thank you. And Yannick says that third year they are selling on Amazon. It's 100% their channel. Yeah. And Q4 has been the biggest season where they make 10 times the revenue.
Yes.
But now they are worried because due to of not enough cash, they might have problems with inventory. So have you faced this? And if so, what is the good strategy to manage inventory and pricing?
What are we talking about? Raising cash for inventory, or are we talking?
I think they have limited cash. And it's Q4, the most important, and how to leverage the inventory maybe limit and the pricing. Maybe they want to sell a bit for a higher price.
Yeah, so you got a couple of questions there. So if you might need money for inventory, and you don't want to be going to the bank for it. So unless Amazon is offering Amazon's offering loans, there's loans company out there, but obviously the rates are quite high. So I would always say to people, if you can, unless you are desperate for it and you guaranteed, is that you want to try and operate off your own cash as best as possible. So if you are, you've been on for 3 years, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be ambitious, but you've got to think about the implications. Like, you can look at it in a way that, you could push all of your money, like you're going to you're spinning it on the table. It's like you put it on red or you put it on black. So it's about making the right informed decisions. If you don't have a lot of money for inventory, you work with what you got. And if you can, and you're selling products where you can increase the price, so you make more profit per unit, you can look at that as well. But it's just working out how you want to raise capital. I don't raise outside capital for anything that I do. But one of the things I have done recently, since we've been doing more products based in the UK, is that we are using our supply chain to agree terms. So we've got we've got a product where we use 3 different suppliers and everything's brought together under one roof. One of the suppliers now gives us 30 days terms, and I'm planning to do terms with the other 2 suppliers as well. So eventually, as you're launching more and more of these products, you're literally working off their cash flow, because if you work 30 to 60 days terms and Amazon's paying you every 2 weeks, as long as you don't make too many mistakes, it's a good way to leverage the cash basically without using your own money.
All right, let's give a break to Danny, that he maybe can drink a water or something. I wanted to ask the audience, so I see quite a lot of people are watching, and it will be, could you tell in a number, will it be your first Q4 or second or third? So basically just type a number, 1 if it's your first Q4 season for Amazon business. So it will be interesting to see where are our audience, and type 0 if you're just a beginner and you are interested in launching, and you are just launching your product and you just want to listen to this webinar just because you want to learn something new before you start your business. So people are typing 1, 3, 1, 2, 7. Yeah, wow, Remy has 7 years on Amazon or e-commerce. Someone says 15. Wow, amazing. So 2, 1. Even someone says 0. So thank you, Adam, for listening. And cool. Obviously, those who have less experience are probably listening to this session.
Yeah, there's loads of unanswered questions. So happy to.
Yes, sure. We are continuing with the questions. All right. So Chris was talking about, he wants to touch a different topic. Actually, you mentioned that some time ago in your podcast, you had a session, which guru is a guru or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And Chris says, I noted that there are more and more Amazon consultants now.
Yes.
Is that because it's more profitable to give advice than selling on the marketplace?
Do you know what? I've for the last 3 years, I've turned down lots of consultancy gigs myself, yeah? And I can understand. It's like, why are all these people doing courses? And to be honest with you, I don't like courses, because I used to teach back in the day. I used to teach audio engineering, and I used to hate writing the course notes. And you'd get to a stage where you're updating the software, because we used to do music production. I'd work across multiple softwares, from Logic to Cubase to Ableton Live to Reason, and you're constantly updating all this stuff. And I couldn't see the enjoyable aspect of doing it. But I suppose my forte is that with the podcast is I talk, I don't write. And it's the same that some people prefer to use the written pen. But without going off track too much, I think the reason why it's split into 2. I think the reason why people do that is to diversify their income off of Amazon. I have 3 businesses. They're completely different. I've got the Amazon business that eats up all your cash. I've got Databrill, which is an agency, which is a reoccurring payment business whereby we have clients that pay on a monthly basis on a contract, and then I've got a construction business. So what it comes down to is that you've got consultants that are doing this because it diversified their income. Like I know a lot of 7-figure sellers, and I end up buying their tea or their lunch because they've got no money, because they've got no cash flow, because it's all tied up in Amazon. I don't do 7 figures. I do 6 figures. I run 3 6-figure businesses, and I'd rather have that because it's got diversified income. So the answer to your question is, there are people that don't sell on Amazon that turned into consultants. There are people that are consultants and they sell on Amazon as well. And they're doing that to diversify their revenue, because ultimately at the end of the day, they're entrepreneurs.
And I would say also some people just have this feeling that they want to interact with people and give away in a personal communication rather than through the product some value.
Yeah. Oh, you mean if you look at something like seller sessions, I don't charge for it. I don't do courses. I do public speaking work. I turn down more consultancy work than I take on. But what I like about doing the seller sessions is I get to meet lots of different people and share. And because they share ideas on the show, for me, that's how I built a network of really great people so that I can learn. I like to learn all the time. And it's almost like when I'm doing seller sessions, people can sit over my shoulder. So it's surprising to me when people ask me about consultancy, because they can go to sellersessions.com and there's normally like 1,000 words or so on each show, all done in bullet points. And they don't need my time, but they prefer that to put it all together. So I am doing more and more of that recently, but my mindset before was, why did people do that? And then I realized it was because they were diversifying their income, because Amazon does eat up a lot of your cash.
All right. Remy has a question about variation. So they have a successful variation product.
Yeah.
So question, is it better to break the variation and list individually so that they can dominate the first pages with more products instead of one single listing?
Well, one is a bit more, it looks spammy. So Amazon's going to want to clean that up sooner rather than later. So you can get away with it. Two, you've got to rank each individual ones, which could end up being a bit more expensive. So I would say go with the variations as a parent-child.
All right. MK says, when you are listing a new product, Amazon gives you this rank, juice, star power for a couple of weeks. How long does it?
The honeymoon period. I'd say it's longer than a few weeks. And again, we all work outside of Amazon. We don't have access to the A9 algorithm. So what we do is we're running tests. So we're not gurus. We don't know for sure, but all we can do is test and observe. And currently what people see it as is that you get a honeymoon period. It's like Amazon's given a chance to see if your product's going to work or not. You do normally get longer than a few weeks. It's like up to a couple of months. But you may have had an issue before where you've had a product, it started off well, and then it died on its backside. And then you've got loads of history, sales history, where it's like barely any sessions or barely any sales. And then we call it waking the dead. So sometimes you're better off just relaunching that ASIN again from start than trying to bring one back from the dead. But obviously the algorithm is changing all the time. So that could change in the future.
Great, thank you. Chris got approved for Amazon Seller Fulfilled, which means that he can fulfill Prime orders from his own warehouse. And he got 100 orders within 2 weeks. What are your thoughts on this program?
Do you know what? I've been trying to find someone to come on the show to do Seller Fulfilled Prime, because I don't do it. I don't do merchant fulfilled in any way, shape or form. So I don't have the answer to that question. But if there's anyone out there who wants to talk about it, it'd be great so it can share with the audience.
Great. Hagai says, would you recommend using FameBit for finding influencers? And do you tell them to use an Amazon Associates link? For those who don't know who is FameBit or what service is FameBit, I think is where you can find YouTube influencers to promote your products.
Yeah, so I would say find your own influencers, because a lot of the time people, they're using bots, they're inflating what they've got. I would focus on finding your own influencers. Now, one of the a little trick that you can use for free to finding guys on say YouTube is that if you've run yourself YouTube ads, haven't you? So if you've got a AdWords account, if you set up in there and you go and open a campaign to do a video ad on YouTube, there is a search function on there where you can search with keywords through video or through channels, and from there you can look and see, well, how many views have they got over a period of time. So you can take the published date and you can look at the total amount of views and subdivide that down and get an idea of like the true engagement in certain senses from like afar, and then approach them directly and try and do a deal with them. That's what I would say there for that. It's a similar thing on Instagram. It's not always easy to understand on how much impact they're going to have. The other thing I have, not against the influencer thing as opposed to something that's cyclic like PPC, is if you're using an influencer, you are going to get a rush of traffic and then it dies off. So you do all that work to get that boost and then it dies off. So if you're going to do the influencer thing, you want to rotate influencers, find 2, 3, 4 of them that you can utilize, because your time is money, isn't it? Finding them. and then have different campaigns for these guys so that you've got a knock-on effect after. Because when you're running PPC on certain keywords, you're just going in there and adjusting the bids. The ad's going to show as long as it enters the auction, whereas doing the influencer stuff is like a one-time show, isn't it?
All right. Sam is asking, can you elaborate on URL and how to use it on Facebook launch campaigns? So probably the person is asking what kind of URLs to use when you are running Facebook ads for your launch product.
Yeah.
Launch.
So if we were, let's pretend that everything's fine with the storefront URL. So you would take your storefront URL. So what we do is we have a WordPress blog, and on that WordPress blog, we send straight from we send a traffic campaign from Facebook that goes to the landing page. That landing page, we use it's a plugin that distributes coupon codes. It's like $60. It's a one-off fee. I can't remember exactly. AMZ coupon server. So what we end up doing is that you've got the URL that takes it to the landing page from Facebook. Now we used a link tracking company called Genie.us. And what that allows you to do is to rotate your link. So if we're running a Facebook campaign, we're doing it at 90% discount off. We are basically, as of now, it's the last few months, we would basically send the traffic to the landing page. From the landing page, when they sign up and grab the coupon code, that link there, we have a rotating URL. So we would have 3 different keywords and 3 different URLs, which are all from the storefront. Okay. And then what we do with that is that we focus on mobile devices only. So when people click on that URL, they're on, say, an iPhone, they're on an Android, or they're on a Windows phone, as an example. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is, depending on the devices that they're on, you're sending them to different keywords, so that when they do go to the storefront on Amazon, Amazon sees the traffic coming from different platforms with different keywords. Does that make sense? It's I think I'll need to share you a video of setting all this stuff up, because it's quite a lot of moving parts there. But yeah, up until now, we've been using the storefront URL. We haven't run any promos for a little while, because there's this concern around the storefront URL at the moment that a lot of our guys within the Amazon community are running tests on now to see if there are any workarounds.
All right, since this webinar we wanted to do about a Q4 mostly, I will jump a little bit further through the questions, or we'll come back to other ones. But Mark Andre is asking, any bad recommendations you hear for Q4 strategies? Anything you should avoid doing?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely avoid trying to rank things in Q4. Ideally, you want to get your products. There's a difference between getting stock in for Q4 and having launched products. You want to be, you're like racing against the clock now to get, good position. Like some of the things that we've been experimenting with recently is exact match PPC. So I launched a product where I spent about £3,000 on one keyword. And with that one keyword, we took it up to page 1. So it's very expensive outside the giveaways. And what we done was, because the way I see it is that you've got a product, and when you put it onto Amazon, you're at the bottom of the Amazon jungle, right? You've got no history whatsoever in terms of sales. So what we've done is we put it in a keyword tracker. We took 5 or 6 keywords, but we only used one keyword that we tracked, right? And that was on exact match. And we spent 150 a day on that, converting sales through that keyword. And once we run our reports, we're able to see that all these other keywords, which are called the rising tides. So whilst they were quietly related in relevance, they weren't just the long tail version. So the way I worked with that is that I spent over time. Now, I know that product will probably end up going from doing 30, 40 units a day to 100 units a day at Christmas. I would never attempt to rank that using PPC then, because it would just be too expensive. And even with my skill set of launching and stuff, it would probably fail. So I'd always say to you is that do all your ranking works outside the main periods.
Great. Devin, whom you asked, who got answers from you to his questions earlier, says, thank you, Danny. I really appreciate your podcasts.
Thank you.
And Mark Andre is still asking more questions about Q4, and he says, what's the main obstacle in Q4? Which solution would you prioritize?
So the key thing for Q4 is, have you got the right products? Have you ordered your products on time? And can you rank and compete with those products? So think about your pricing optimization. I always say to people that you need to be careful of as well, is that you can fall in love with your product, but ultimately the story is told, especially if you are doing giveaways and you rank to page 1 and it starts to drop down. The people have spoken. So you need to make sure more than ever is that you've got a high quality product, and you have to be honest with yourself. So I would definitely focus on high quality product as a primary, but you need to make sure you can compete in that market, because there's a lot of people I see, you know, they might go and try and launch spatulas even in this day and age, and it's like the numbers just don't make sense. You sell at $12.99 and your average cost per click is $5 or $4, and you convert every 10 clicks. It's never going to make you any money.
All right, and actually continuing this topic, Raja says it's his second Q4, but at the moment has 0 products. Is it too late now for this Q4 to launch product?
I would say you are leaving it very, very late, but it depends what you're launching. You might be in like a subcategory that no one really knows about. It sells 10 or 15 units a day, and you found that niche. There's not a huge amount of them left because everyone's got these software tools now that they're all fishing from the same pond. So it's very hard to say, is it too late? But if you are in a competitive product and you a category and you haven't ordered your products yet, you might get away with something if it's domestic, but literally you've got 4 weeks now to really put the graft in to get your visibility right before everything starts to pick up.
I see a question about PPC automation. Actually, you run the data braille. We didn't really talk in details. Could you elaborate what is this service about and if you are accepting new clients?
We are accepting new clients, but what we normally focus on is our model is that we work with larger clients with hundreds of SKUs, because when you build a piece of technology, you're trying to solve a problem, and it's very difficult for people that have got hundreds, if not thousands of SKUs to manage them. And a lot of the agencies like your Sean Smiths and your Brian Johnson stuff, they're not necessarily going to want to take on that kind of workload because they've already got those kind of clients. So I work with, my partner is Ellis. He's one of the algorithm guys behind Jungle Scout. Very smart guy. And basically we're focused on like larger clients to solve their problems, because the problem with someone who's got 1,000 SKUs is different to someone who's got a set of 30 SKUs. We also do like multi-language PPC for our technology, and we're able to onboard people, and we also do split testing as well as part of our setup.
And your service basically is PPC optimization.
Yeah, PPC optimization, but they work with me on strategy as well. So for instance, we've got a client who's in the US and in the UK. So we manage all their PPC there. But for instance, like last week, we had a concern, he got suspended. So we worked together on a strategy, and within 2 days, he was back reinstated. We had the right like PO, you know, we put together a plan of action. We went through the key attributes of the issues that we faced, and then we bullet pointed everything. And it's very key to get those right. So what I end up doing with our clients is it's not just the PPC to help grow their businesses, that we do strategy calls as well, because you've got to treat the business as a whole. So on one side, PPC could do bad or well, and then you don't know what's going on the other side. So the way we're structured is that our technology is plugged in both into the advertising API and into the Seller Central account. Plus, I have access to their Seller Central account, because then I can monitor and see what's going on as well on terms of the strategy side. So we're not strictly a PPC agency, even though that's what we're branded as, which is true, and that's the bulk of our work. But we do a lot of the work in terms of strategy with our clients as well.
And I started to talk about PPC just because someone is asking your recommendation for PPC automation software.
Okay, so I'm not being biased in any way here. I believe that our PPC platform that we do, it's a managed service, right? So although we've got standardized algorithms, we do recode for specific clients, yeah, because they're working. Some of our guys are doing like 10 million a year. So it's important to have it bang on and right. Now, it's only 90% or so. Like Ellis is a data scientist as well. So he's smart about marketing. He's a data scientist as well. And so we don't do 100% because we don't believe that the technology is there to do it. There's just too many moving parts, and there's too many things outside of data that you need to look at in terms of simple things of looking at the search results pages and analyzing there for problems with the campaigns, for the troubleshooting. So if you are going to use automated software, you must understand the calculations behind it, because there are lots of software out there that does automation, and people come to me all the time saying, look, I've been using X software and it's been blowing up my account, and now all my campaigns have gone off rail. But that's because they haven't always fully understood what the calculations are behind it. So if you're going to use automation software, use it because it makes your life easier and you know the calculations. Don't use it because you think it's going to solve your PPC problems and maybe you're not knowledgeable about PPC. So I'm not saying don't use them, but just make sure you know what's happening, because you can blow your account up.
Great. And actually, if someone is interested to get in touch with you for your services, or maybe even to offer an interesting topic for your seller sessions, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, you can go for seller sessions, for topics, feedback, stuff like that. It's Danny@sellersessions.com. Perfect. And if you want to reach out for us, anything related to PPC, like the agency, you can do Danny@databrill.com.
Perfect. And you still have time, Danny?
Yeah. I'm happy to answer questions.
Cool. Let's take a short question. Cyber wants to know, is it better to use UPC or FNSQ?
Sorry?
Is it better to use UPC or FNSQ? You mean, I mean, the barcode.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically on your packaging. So yeah, instead of having the label for Amazon, if you do at the factory level, because it's easier that way, on your packaging, put your FNSQ on there. And then when you send them into Amazon, then you're within inside of their facility network, rather than paying Amazon, what is it, 20 pence or 20 cents a unit? I don't remember now.
MK says that he has a trademark in the works, but it's under a category which he's not selling.
Yeah.
His concern is, should he get a trademark in the actual category, or wait until his product is successful because it's his first product?
Okay, so I don't know where he's selling, but to give an example, I done a trademark for our UK brand. Now, with a trademark in the UK, it can take 8 to 10 weeks instead of 6 months in the US. And if you're using the trademark purely for brand registry, you can use that as a tool to open brand registry in the US. So I raised a ticket with the support team, and then they confirmed it in the major countries that you can cross-reference as long as you've got a trademark. Now, the UK trademark doesn't cover you for the US. It just opens brand registry. So in the UK, I got 2 classes on the trademark. Think about when you're starting a brand as well, is that you don't want that opposition. So we completed the paperwork in like 20 minutes, and then we come up with a name that's not related. So if you're in sports and outdoors, you don't want to call yourself Super Sports, because you might get opposition there. You might want to call it Davy Jones. I'm being ironic there, or come up with a name that doesn't relate to and I'm not a lawyer here, by the way, and that doesn't relate to that category. So it's got less chance of being pulled over for review or being opposed. Yeah. So if you go and do a search on the UK, you're based in the US, you can still purchase a UK trademark. Just go onto the UK trademark office, follow the steps. It takes 20 minutes. Make sure you select the right classes that you are in. You'll get a submission email. You pay, I think I paid £224. And then make sure you chase up. Like, you're not meant to, but there is an email address in there, because there's like a little wait period when they're doing the admin. But generally it takes about 8 weeks. So I would say to anyone, for that amount of money, if you're serious about your business and product, just get a trademark anyway.
Great. Gabriel, it's his first Q4, but he says, my account has been blocked because it has been linked to another account that is not allowed to sell on Amazon. Yeah. And he has no idea what account they are talking about. What is the best way to solve this problem?
The problem you've got there is that they take that very seriously. So you want to go to seller-performance@amazon.com and deal with a performance team there. But you might be tough, because if someone's been selling on that other account and they've done black hat or counterfeit goods, etc., you've been pulled down with it, and the chances of getting your account back are going to be very difficult.
And how can it be that his account is linked and this person has no idea to which account?
I don't know. Maybe I can't speak for his position, but if he's purchased an account or he's shared the account with someone else, he had it previously under a joint business. I don't know his situation. But if you're going to link an account, they're going to link somehow, and that's going to be maybe through IP, where he's been in the same vicinity and they're operating Amazon accounts there. But you can normally explain that off to people. Like I operate across numerous accounts that are linked to my Amazon US and UK accounts, but I'm added as a user, so I've got certain level privilege rights to the account, and I work under the same IP, so it's no problem for me. But if I start going into black hat and doing counterfeit goods, then that's going to have a knock-on effect to me. But from my understanding from speaking with Chris McKay, he said that if you were to get suspended on your account, let's just say it's a safety complaint or something, I asked him about the knock-on effect to my other clients, and he said there wouldn't. It'd only be that it wouldn't affect their accounts, but it may, if you were taken down, affect it will just shut off the access to those accounts, if that makes sense. So it seems to me, and I don't know enough about it, with his question there, it seems to be Amazon seems to be taking that quite serious. So I would utilize that seller performance email address and see if you can engage with them. But the chances I think might be quite slim.
All right. Pipolino wants to know, do you recommend dollar off coupons with the orange banner or rather than discount codes?
I think numbers, and this is the personal thing and the tests I've done, but I don't have enough data sets. But from my tests and what other people tested, people have found it more effective to, instead of saying 5% off something, say $1 or $2 off. It seems to be a bit more striking. So the tests I've done, they seem to convert the best when we've worked the percentage crossed over with the dollar amount.
Great. Christian is asking, have you seen product reviews split up between variations? It happened to one of my parent ASIN only in France, and I don't know what to do to link the children again. Support saying it's new feature.
Ignore support, just go to the catalog team, just fight past them. And if they don't like it, just go to the captive team or ask for the captive team, because they're clueless. They don't know what they're talking about. So if there's something along with your listing and you've got a problem, just go to the catalog team. It's a pain to get there in some cases, but that's what I would do.
All right. David wants to know what was the coupon code distribution plugin that is.
Oh yeah, AMZ coupon code or AMZ coupon server. You do a search for that, and with what was it? WordPress plugin AMZ coupon server. Do a search for that, and you should be able to find it.
Chris says, if we were to bundle products and sell on Amazon and use their own GS1 barcodes, will Amazon let them do that?
If they use their own, they're either GS1 barcodes or they're going to be third-party barcodes from somewhere else. Like you've got, say, there are companies out there that sell barcodes cheaper than having a license, like being a member of GS1, that are actually generated codes that are GS1, if that makes sense. But I would definitely say if you're past the first stages of your business, get your sign up for GS1, because I think in the UK it's only like £100 and something for signing up, I believe. There's different packages, different levels. It's not super expensive, but yeah, that's the route I would go instead of working with third-party barcodes, because I got caught out with a product which I still sell now that didn't have a GS1 barcode, and I'm down change it over, and I've actually spoke to GS1 as I'm a member, but I said prior, it was one of the first products we didn't have a GS1 barcode under our account name, and my concern is if you tell Amazon they're either it's like Russian roulette, who you're going to get at the other end of the call. They're either going to say, yeah, we can change that over, or you're going to have a different problem where they're going to say, oh no, you can't use that barcode, and then take you out the game. And then you've got to re-rank that product. You may strand your inventory. You've got to bring it back. So it could end up being a bit of a nightmare.
All right. I
just seen it. I haven't purchased or shared. Is this Gabrielle? I haven't done any black activities either. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't accusing you anyway. I was just saying that if there's any relationship there, the best thing you can do is to speak to seller performance team. All I'm saying to you is when they link accounts like that and they suspend you, it's not always easy to get back in good grace. You could try a suspension company, but a lot of them cost a lot of money, you know, like 1,500 to $2,000, and there's no guarantees in most cases. So it depends on how much you value on that account. What you could do is that you could team up with other sellers who sell on that account, and then you almost get paid out as a consultant. Like what we do with some of my partners, instead of me being named under limited company on their accounts, we do what's called the 80-20 rule. So if I hold cash flow, I take 80% of the profits, they take 20%. If they hold cash flow, it's vice versa. And then what we can do is work out what is owed at the end of the year in terms of the profit. So one account maybe have X amount of thousands and the other has X amount, and then the difference is then paid across.
All right. I see one question for Q4 topic. David says, aside from advertising with two-step and PPC strategies, other traffic strategies for Q4, please.
Other strategies for Q4.
Traffic strategies.
Traffic, external traffic. Maybe you could experiment running Bing ads, Google ads. So you do, Bing ads, Google ads. I think that can end up being quite expensive. I think when you experiment with, if you think about third-party traffic, right, you need to make sure you've got enough margin. And when you're sending traffic to Amazon, it's not always easy to track it, because it's not like you can drop like a conversion pixel on your page. We don't have access to that. So you're almost flying a little bit blind. Now, I know that you can tag stuff by sending traffic to your branded page, but still, that's not still got the same experience as being on Amazon and being within the infrastructure with card payments, etc., because you're sending traffic from outside. So if you're going to do third-party traffic, you still need good quality, high converting traffic. So I would look in AdWords, because you've got do AdWords. Maybe look at doing Bing ads. But I think once you start getting into stuff like Pinterest and stuff, it can start to get a little bit more expensive. There is Facebook, but if you're not doing discounts, again, you're on a social network, aren't you? Which is not a place necessarily doing commerce. And depends how strong you are with Facebook ads as well, would determine your success.
Great. And Christian, who was asking about his products his variations being split, and you suggest to contact the higher teams. He says, thank you, Danny. You are a fountain of knowledge.
Thank you. Well, I don't know everything, and most of the stuff I've learned is through the guests coming on the show. So I'm just passing it on.
And Gabriel also says, thank you. I see one more question about Q4. Adam says, I have a couple of product ideas but a total newbie. Do you advise that I try source the products and get them for Amazon in Q4? Is that even possible? Well, we talked a little bit about it.
It's a bit late to do anything now. All your planning should be for the new year. And another thing, guys, about the Q4 thing, don't forget, you've got so much focus on Q4. By the time you burn yourself out, you've got the Chinese New Year in January. So you've got to think about, you've got to have one eye in the future as well on reordering any products there and not missing the boat there, because you don't want to have a great Q4 and then be out of stock for 3 or 4 months because there's a backlog in China, and you know that your manufacturers are going to take your deposits off you all day and promise you the earth that it will get out in time, but there's no guarantee. So you want to be thinking about placing your orders in December, if not a little bit earlier, to avoid issues in January.
Thanks. And Yannicki says, She wants to ask your thoughts on Amazon's new transparency program to prevent counterfeiters. Could you first explain to people who don't know what is a transparency program?
Well, I don't use it, but it's a paid-for program where, from my understanding, that they literally imagine that your product's being tagged. It's almost like another barcode, from my understanding. So correct me if I'm wrong. And so that's it's there to be put into place to stop inauthentic activities taking place, and you pay a certain fee for it. I've not used it yet, and I don't know how strong it is. Amazon are often launching programs like the account manager. So they, for me, it's like, do you really want to pay 42 grand a year to have an account manager that chances are knows less than you do about Amazon? And when you look at the quality control of the first line of support, I would say you need to focus on that before you start selling third-party services to sellers. I mean, if we just take, for instance, Prime Day, Brian Johnson and Sean Smith were discussing this on Seller Sessions a little while ago, that Amazon reps were setting up campaigns that just budgets of $600 a day with super high bids to give visibility, and then following them up a couple of days before to make sure they've launched their campaigns. Them campaigns would have never made any money at all. They would have lost the clients a lot of money. So Brian and the other guys who manage accounts had to dial them down. Now, put it into perspective. If any of us done that, we would be called, it'd be like gorging, basically, gorging off your client, yeah? And if you look at it in another sense, Amazon, if we're Amazon's customers, would they treat the customers that on the front end who buy from the store the way that they treat their sellers? I don't think so. So I'm always skeptical of any new Amazon program that comes out. And the transparency, I suppose, I've kind of got blind to it now. When they launch something new, I'm thinking, right, okay, well, why don't you get your house in order first before you launch these things? So the short answer is I don't know enough about the program, but if it's like most of the programs I've seen Amazon launch, they're not always fully developed. They don't normally have a full sophisticated team behind it.
All right. Cyber wants to know, do you think it's a good idea to include a card within your product, and the card is offering a discount if you go on your own website and purchase?
That's against TOS. So basically what you're saying is you're putting an insert inside of your packaging, right? And what you're doing there is you're guiding an Amazon customer off of Amazon. So it makes it very difficult. That's why inserts, as much as we try with them, unless you're going to go that route of against TOS and hope you don't get caught, it's hard to build a funnel to drive people to your website. We know you can do a warranty and it's not that great, but you're not really allowed to take an insert and then guide people off Amazon and say, you must leave here and come over here and I'm giving you an incentive. It doesn't wash with Amazon. And I don't think people get fully suspended for it unless they've got a sophisticated back end. I mean, I've seen some great funnels for reviews, which are from the supplement world, which is obviously that's a big business and there's a lot of competition there and a lot of affiliate marketer types who work in that category as well. So they're used to dealing with these kinds of things. But I think if you're basically FBA, it's within Amazon's facility centers, there is a chance that you may get caught, especially if you've got breakages and stuff. So I'd be careful there if you want to protect your account.
Remy is asking, is it a good idea to lower the price to improve ranking for a while, or it's better to fix the price and then increase the PPC budget and bids?
Whenever I launch now through that PPC, I didn't finish off earlier with the exact match thing. What we did is we put a coupon code. We sold at $9.97. We gave £2 off, but what we did do is we started at $7.97, and then we offered with the £2 off. Plus, we went hard on the PPC because I wanted to get sales velocity, and because of the product, because of the nature of it, it was really it was good value for money because it was so cheap compared to the other sizes on the page. Yeah. So when you consider about what the customer got, they got double, if not triple, what others would normally sell at that same price. So I did that and lost money for a period of time, and then it went to break even because slowly we got rid of the coupon code. It went from a £2 off to a £1 off, I think it was. And then we slowly brought up the price to the full price of selling it. And then at the end of it, we then tapered off on the PPC bids, because once we got the conversion ratio down of the amount of organic sales to PPC sales. So when you're starting out, your ratio is about 100%, and then it's 90%, then it's 80, then it's 70. It starts to change up. And once you start getting better ranking positions on your keywords, then you can start to taper off your bids, and then you become less reliant on that.
Great. We're approaching the end of the questions finally, and Ode Zurinam is asking, how can you explain that someone with really bad BSR can stick to page 1 of a primary keyword for a very long time?
Because they're using dirty black hat tactics to do it.
Right.
That's as far as I can say. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that people don't know about. There's a big underworld of black hat that goes on. People are seeing it, where maybe their listings have been attacked and taken over. I mean, I'll give you an example. The other day, there's a lot of what we call the content jacking, where some people are going onto the listing and changing like the bullet points and the titles and stuff. We had a guy, Michael Hartman, on the show the other day, it was, and we called it listings under attack. And so basically what happened was he woke up one day and he found out that his product had been moved out of his category and the content of his listings changed. So he went to the catalog team and he changed it all back. And then the hijacker contacted him and basically said, if you change it again, you're in trouble. And basically he said, F you, who do you think you are? So he then changed all the content again on his listing, and he'd done it across a few of them because it's related to the store. He then moved his products to not only a restricted category that needs certification that you can't reach in Amazon, it also disabled his stock. So basically his stock was set adrift. And then when he contacted the catalog team to put it all right, they were scratching their head because they said, look, what they've done here can only happen from the inside. So you have to make up your own mind about it. So there is a lot of stuff out there that's going on with black hat as well as grey hat stuff. So that, going back to that question there, that it's a common tactic, and but eventually these people tend to get caught up on.
Yeah, recently I've heard that Amazon is really taking this serious, and they will be shutting down all these, hopefully. So.
Yeah, but what happens is a loophole closes and a new one opens. And I would say definitely it's about focusing on building a business rather than the short term. Like, a lot of people focus too much on, how much margin. Now, another thing that you should look into as well, if you've got a bit of cash flow to work with, is that everyone fishes from the same pool. So they use all these software tools showing all the same products over and over again. And then they look at the margins and they look at and they go, okay, on this product here, I'm not going to make any money, because they're thinking about the first shipment. When I look at launching products, I think of the third shipment, because when I think in that sense, because I know it's going to take me longer to recover, then what other people are looking at is like, oh, that's not got no margin, I'll skip that product. That's got no margin, I'll skip that product, because they're not running 3 spreadsheets. So if you run this 3 spreadsheets for the 3 shipments, what you may look at is that your first shipment, you'll lose, I don't know, a couple of thousand or 1,000. And then second shipment, you break even. And then on the third shipment, you get, say, 20% margin. And then slowly you might get it up to 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And I know a lot of people talk about, I'm on a 50% margin. But when you take out all your real costs, there's not many products out there that give you a 50 or 40% margin.
Great. There is one more question which I didn't really understand, but maybe I will read to you. David is asking, is product innovation still the best way to break into an existing category, aside from first in or new prototyping bundles?
Yeah, so to break that out a bit, innovation in the sense, if you design a new wheel, basically, the problem you're going to have is that when you put it on Amazon, if there's no keywords for it, then you've got no search volume. Amazon's about supply and demand, isn't it? People want to find it. You go into a category where you've either got a niche where you can run in there, or you're going into a competitive niche where there's some sales volume in there. Yeah. So you don't want to take a brand new product that there's no keywords for, because it's very difficult. I know they've got Amazon Launchpad, but once you start getting into the stage what I call neighboring keywords, where you try and make this spoon and this spatula related, it's going to cost you more money because of the lack of relevance. But what you should be looking at is product innovation in terms of building a better mousetrap. So your product is going to be superior to what's out there. You need to make improvements on that and establish those improvements, come out with a good price and good quality. That's the best way I would say to do it.
Perfect. Great. So one more time, Danny, could you tell us what you do, what you're offering, and how can people reach out to you?
Well, I'm not here to sell. I've done this for free because I want to help the community. But if you want to reach out to me, as I said, it's danny@sellersessions.com. It's about topics and stuff. If you're a large seller and you've got hundreds or thousands of SKUs and you need to take care of that, have a chat with us. That's danny@databuild.com. But other than that, hopefully you've enjoyed today, and I've hopefully answered as many questions as possible.
And yes, people are saying thank you, big time. Thank you for this conference. Thanks, Augustus and Danny, for your time. Great talk. Thanks for your insights. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you.